Hey everyone, it's Crimson Rosso here once again with another subscriber special video. We finally hit 400 subs on my channel, and I want to take a small second to thank all of you guys 100 times over. You all make me feel like I can be a big YouTuber one day if I just keep at it and keep working. And as the poll on Twitter decided, the 400 sub special is about my top 10 PS4 games. Before we continue, I want to say that this was going to be a bit different than my Ryu one, as a lot of PS4 games are basically on other consoles. So a lot of these games are going to be when they started out as PS4 exclusives before they got the multi-ports. Makes things a lot easier instead of just scouring for the most obscure shit in the universe. With that said, let's get started. Yeah, okay, so small spoiler, don't expect this to be the only RGG Studios game on this list. Yakuza 6 was the first ever game developed on RGG's all-new Dragon engine, and the game really shows it. It boasts incredible graphics and all new levels of animations, like now opening doors to get into stores, and far more detailed and more beautiful looking cutscenes. The game is also phenomenal outside of those things, of course. It's a story filled with several moments that bring both laughs and tears, and a plethora of fun and goofy fights and mini games to sink hours upon hours of time into. Yakuza 6 delivers on every account. Just kinda wish the combat had more time in the oven to really be perfected. So, fun little fact, until I had played this game, I had actually never touched an Infamous game before. I had been much more a 360 kid than a PS3 kid, so I had never really gotten into the series. And after I had played Second Son, I honestly kinda wish I had tried them sooner. Second Son has some incredibly interesting combat that feels like a nice mix between action-based combat and third-person shooting. Two things that should be absolute failures when smashed together, but instead comes together surprisingly well. The graphics are also top-notch. This game really does a great job of showing how good PS4 games can look. I was also a big fan of the powers themselves. I was expecting stuff like simple powers, like fire, ice, wind, the generic stuff. And I was pleasantly surprised the game with things like smoke and neon for you to use. It made powers really stand out in comparison to just splattering enemies with fireballs or lightning bolts. While the game's combat can feel a bit slow at points, Infamous Second Son is without a doubt a must-play for anyone looking for a very solid, semi-open world game. Ever since I played Deadlocked on the PS2, I have loved the Ratchet and Clank series for the longest time. It's got everything you could want in a game. Great gameplay, lovable cast of goofballs, and incredibly fun areas to explore. And when I finally got my hands on the PS4 remake of the first game, I was blown away how they were able to breathe new life into already what was known as an all-time classic. From completely redone graphics to give the areas that next-gen life they deserved, gameplay was tweaked to feel more smooth and responsive, and the humor, while I will admit not being as good as the original, was still cheesy enough to get a couple chuckles out of me. If you have PS Plus, I highly recommend picking up this remake and playing all the others as well. It's a series well worth diving into. I'm honestly hoping that one day Insomniac gives games like Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal the remake treatment as well. They definitely deserve it. Please, Insomniac! Before I had played 2018, I had actually never touched a single God of War game. So when I had heard that 2018 was basically a soft reboot of the franchise, and people could jump in there without knowing a whole lot of the story, I decided I wanted to give the game a try. And god damn, what a fantastic experience it was. The beautiful tale of a man haunted by his past actions, trying to move forward in order to form a connection with his son, was genuinely beautiful and heartwarming to witness. Combat was also a blast as well. From the brutal heaviness of the axe, to the speedy strikes of the Blades of Chaos, or just straight up beating someone to death with your bare god hands. The fun just never stopped. While I wish the enemy variety was a bit more diverse, There's no doubt the God of War reboot was an easy top 10 for me, and hopefully it is for you as well. You would think that a game delayed as many times as Final Fantasy VII would have just been an absolute garbage pile when it released. So it was insane how high quality the finally finished product was when it first ever released. Man, this was one polished gem of a release. Final Fantasy VII Remake basically does everything right in terms of bringing the game into the modern day. A complete graphical overhaul that makes it one of, if not the single most beautiful game on the PS4. The gameplay was completely overwritten as well, changing it from the original's turn-based combat to an action RPG style of gameplay, which, while I can get upset a couple of people, I think it worked really well and it made the game more interesting to pick up for me, instead of just being, hey, here's everything again. And they do a surprisingly good job at reformatting the combat too. It doesn't feel perfect, sure, but it feels great. Also, the crazy story changes are just so much fun to see if you played the original. The game also has a couple other problems, I will admit, like the AI and padding sections, but outside of that, it is downright phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see what Rebirth brings to the table. What happens when you take an already great game and push it to its most logical extreme? Well, you get Persona 5 Royal, of course. While Persona 5 was split between two PlayStation consoles, 3 and 4 to be exact, Royal doesn't have those restrictions, allowing you to take full advantage of the PS4's full power. More animations, smoother gameplay, more enemy types, more areas and dungeons to explore, more character moments, more party members, more boss fights, and so much more in basically every part of the game that came before it. It's incredibly easy to see why so many people considered it one of, if not the best JRPG on the PlayStation 4. And it almost had that for me as well, but there were a few more that beat it out for me. But that doesn't negate the fact that Persona 5 Royal is without a doubt a masterclass in JRPGs, and one I highly recommend everybody plays at least once. We're finally here, folks. My second of the 3 RGG studio games on this list. This spot is gonna have to go to my absolute favorite of the Yakuza series, the prequel game, Yakuza Zero. Now, when I heard this game was going to be a prequel, I originally didn't think it was going to be very interesting. I like prequels, don't get me wrong, but I also didn't really have enough of a reason to care about a game that explored Kiryu and Majima's past, as I had already gotten more than enough of that from playing the mainline games. But once I started Zero, I grabbed a bowl and some utensils because I ate my own fucking words with this game. God, where do I start? The story, of course, is fucking phenomenal. Easily my absolute favorite from the mainline games. The combat in Zero is also just honed to pure perfection, feeling the best it's ever felt to smash dudes' faces in. The personal favorite was the Majima Breaker style that I used to style all over fools. And God, there is just so much content in this that it's crazy that this was all just put on a disc for a console. This feels like something that you'd need a PC for. It's crazy. RGG Studio created a masterpiece with this game that I only believe has been topped by one other game, but we will get to that one later. It's almost like it's kind of a crime to not include a Spider-Man game on any top 10 PS4 games list, let's be honest here. The game is just that good. This game was also the game that actually got me into the superhero genre. And can you really blame me for falling in love with them after playing this? This game does an amazing job bringing a single-player Spider-Man game to modern-day consoles, boasting addicting, fast-moving combat that just feels so good, man. An incredible, well-made, self-contained story that feels straight out of a big-budget movie or a long-running comic strip. And best of all,
is that beautifully smooth web swinging mechanics that really, what was it again? Oh yeah, it really made you feel just like you were Spider-Man. The visceral feeling of swinging around Manhattan as the webhead himself. Overplayed meme achieved, baby. I can now die happy knowing that I put this in the video. Now that that's done with, you are legally obligated to go play this game. Do it now. There's not even a reason to finish the last two. Go play Spider-Man, it's that good. Now, on to the final of the RGG studio games for this list. And the one that takes number 2 spot is the one I personally consider the pinnacle of the PS4 era of RGG exclusive games until they came to PC and other consoles. And anyways, Judgment takes the formula of Yakuza games and turns it up to 11. Combat is given more speed and versatility, example being able to jump off a wall to launch a kick to break some random dude's jaw. I did that more times than I definitely needed to. The game also takes a bit of a unique turn with its storytelling, focusing more on detective work and the concept of revenge and corruption in comparison to tackling another Yakuza feud like, the Yakuza games would. And lastly, the characters are arguably the best this studio has pumped out. Yagami is probably my favorite protag from these games, surpassing even the goats themselves like Goro Majima and Kazuma Kiryu. And I am not sorry, my head will be on somebody's door soon for saying that, but I do not care. I rarely consider many games masterpieces, but goddamn does Judgment do more than enough to earn that title alongside Yakuza Zero. Plus, it has a goofy ass VR board game in it. How could you possibly not love that? We're finally here, ladies and gents, the number 1 spot. And who better to take it away than the legendary From Software magnum opus, Bloodborne. Bloodborne was my first ever Souls game. It's the one that led me into the beautiful but horrifying world of Souls-likes. And there is a lot to love from this gothic horror Souls-like title. From its beautiful yet horrifying world of grotesque monsters and humans that you hunt down, to its dark, cryptic lore that only gets more sickening but with every monster you cut down. And best of all, its challenging combat that's both addicting and rewarding. The idea of removing the defensive side of the game was a strange idea, may sound on paper, but instead it turns every battle into a heart-pumping, blood-rushing dodge game where reaction matters far more than holding up a shield and protecting yourself like a filthy coward. Adding this, the plethora of amazingly fun and challenging bosses that I've mentioned before, cause I just wanted to mention them again, damn it, they're just that good. These enemies and bosses coming at you in this bleak, unforgiving world of darkness and horror, of gore and disgust. God, it's just so rad, plain and simple. No other Souls-like has ever compared to it for me. It has stayed the absolute pinnacle of the franchise, even after the several years since I played it. I revisited it multiple times, and I plan to continue doing so. It's not only my top 1 PS4 game, but it also might just be one of my favorite games ever.
And with that, we have come to the end of the video. Thank you all for joining me so much for this little special. And thanks a million once again for 400 subs. The next special will be once we reach 600 subs. So if you want to see that, do me a favor and spread the word, drop a like, and if you haven't, sub for more content afterwards. See y'all next time, and have a lovely day.